Now you have gathered all the information needed. It is time to get to the meat and potatoes of drafting your bullets. In this segment of the bullet writing class, we will cover how to extract the facts from your data and build an accomplishment impact statement. We will go step by step using the AIR method. That's action, impact, and result. Using a 3-part bullet is highly effective in linking your airmen's actions to the big picture of how what they do fits into the mission. A well-developed bullet can tell a big story in a very small amount of space. So again, back to how is it useful? You may not see it at that moment, but we've had a situation where we had an airman who was able to find a way to save 20 minutes of a maintainer's time by turning a wrench in a different direction. And no, I'm not talking lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. It was actually the way the series went. It still fell in line with the TO. They weren't violating any safety requirements, but their innovative thinking said, hey, if I do it this way, I get 20 minutes of my life back. And to that airman, that's significant. And if you think about the airmen that touch each and every aircraft.
And that does the same job.
Exactly. And they, I mean, you help the wing. Well, if you stop there with that information, that's great for that wing, but what happens if that chief is at a meeting with other chiefs and says, hey, my guy did this. Did you hear about this? And now you can take that into the big Air Force, its benchmark. And so that impact, that big picture really can be shown to affect the entire organization. And that's what our leadership is calling us to do. Find innovative ways. You highlight what that airman's doing, and now your other airmen are going, wait a minute, I can do this too. Wait a minute, my leadership believes in what we think and what my innovations are. I should bring this up to them. It opens up those doors for communications. So it's not just about that one airman, it's embracing it overall as the Air Force goes through. So step 2, when we're accomplishing our impact, is going through and actually constructing the bullet in itself. And so we'll have our little ground rules here. We have our dash up front, our semicolon and double dash there in the middle, dividing up our 3 parts. And then, of course, we're not using ending punctuation. And why aren't we using ending punctuation?
Because it's not a full sentence.
It's not a sentence. Why are we not using pronouns?
Because
it's not a sentence.
It's not a sentence. And why are we not using the individual's name?
Because
it's not a sentence.
It's not a sentence, and it should be
on the form.
On the form, that's right. Hopefully it's up there up top. Otherwise, you are going to get that kicked back, and that goes back to the editing phase, right? So here we go. We've got our action, impact, and result. That is how we're going to build this accomplishment impact statement. That's the 3 parts that we talked about before. You have your internal punctuation. So you want to start with the action verb. It's kind of the easy game point of where we're going. And we've given you some examples there in your writing guide to use to get you started. The key thing about these action verbs is please make sure you know what they mean. It's very difficult when you have a situation where someone's used a word and you go, I don't think that's what they meant. And you see it and it becomes a distraction. You're like, okay, that's not what it meant. And then it kind of takes away from the rest of the form. So action verbs are very important in 1, setting the tone for that bullet, and 2, making sure that it actually means what you want it to mean. So for our example, we processed over 300 mobility records with no errors as part of the 81st Air Base Wing ORE. Very simple. Can you tell what they did? They processed over 300 mobility records. So you have a very clean way of kicking off this, this action statement. Another thing that you can do is if you have something and you're really wanting to bring in that airman's personality to kind of make it stand out, we can add an adverb in there. And so when we look at it, now they've tenaciously processed.
I like it.
You like it? Yeah, D. Wills likes it. So you tenaciously processed over 300 mobility records. You kind of look at that and you go, okay, didn't we talk about not embellishing earlier today? So maybe tenaciously isn't the best word for this type of bullet, but it just is an example to give you kind of that idea of, please use the list that's in here and think about how you're highlighting those things. And then the next step is going to be our impact element. And this classifies how it affects the organization. They did this, and so here's your immediate impact on what has happened. And it also sets a tone for at what level that's going to be. You know, if they do this, then it goes here, then it goes here. And it's all building up these baby steps. I like to call this our result light. We go in and we show what the immediate impact is. So here we have our action, and then all unit personnel met their scheduled chalk times. And anybody who's been through an inspection understands how important that is. Those error-free records, they move on, they move on. The second they start finding errors, it slows down, you miss chalk times, and then you are scheduling your life 6 months out going, oh, look, we get more practice.
Whole deployment line is thrown off.
All of it, it's gone. It is. And so here we can show that all unit personnel met their scheduled chalk times, not only highlighting the accomplishment of what the action did, but that the impact was there at that unit. So now that we have our action and our impact, we need to talk about the result. What was that big picture outcome of what the airmen did? And we want to think big picture on this, right? So we're going to look at paramount to the unit achieving a highly effective IG rating. We know this because we've been through our experience where it shows that we process records, we meet scheduled chalk times, and it can really affect that grade on the outside. And so here, highly effective IG rating is going to be that outcome. Can we tell like what level of impact this was and why?
I think we can.
How's that?
Because something like an exercise of that magnitude, highly effective is one of the highest ratings you can get, and that rating is probably going to affect the whole wing depending on if this is a wing exercise.
Very much so. It directly can, especially with it being an IG setting. Absolutely. So we saw that all in one piece. Is that all going to fit on one line? No. So this is where we look at streamlining that bullet, and we're going to use the acronym ABS. Just like in fitness, we got to make sure that those are nice and tight. We're going to go in here and look at being accurate, brief, and specific. By being accurate, we're making sure, again, we're not embellishing. Going back to our core values, making sure that we're being honest. Not everybody's that firewall 5 and walking on water like we used to see. You're going to have the information, just has to stick to the facts. And that's where we go in with being accurate. And then we have being brief or brevity. And ironically, this has a longer definition, but it goes into the specifics on what does that mean. Again, why are we taking out those pronouns and those extra words? Because it's not a sentence. And so it's keeping the facts in. We talk about making sure that we're having very quantitative and qualitative information within a short period of time. And by replacing those long words like automobile and changing it to a car, you've gained so many characters back to be able to really highlight the accomplishment. And then of course, being specific. We want to make sure we have those detailed facts and numbers. You'll remember from our previous example, what did it say?
I think it was talking about
Like the number of records, how was it described?
Mobility.
over 300, yeah.
The over 300. And what can over 300 mean?
It can be 301, 356.
Or 500.
500, right? That's still over 300. Exactly. And so we want to make sure that we're being very specific. So here we did 342 error-free mobility records during the 81st Air Base Wing ORE. It gives us a tangible number. It doesn't leave us with that guessing or kind of almost the fluff that says, well, it's over 300. I mean, what could that mean? And so you're going in there. And again, and then it said here, what did it say here? Do you remember?
All unit.
All unit personnel. Still all, all, but here you have 100%. If you think back to your school days where it said, minus 0 wrong or 100%, like which one made you feel better about yourself? 100, I got 100, I'm awesome, right? So here you're showing that positive, attitude behind what the words are reflecting. Now, is this all going to fit on one line?
No.
Not at all.
Not even a little bit. So let's see. Do I get to keep my tenaciously?
No.
Probably going to go away.
You think so? All right.
Feels
So
good,
let's
though.
use our ABS all over again. But what other things that we can do when we're looking at streamlining our bullets that we use a lot of in the Air Force?
Acronyms. You can abbreviate.
Right. And so some key things that we can do to kind of make this here. So we have what the first version and now here. It still says the information. Process 342 error-free records at the 81st Air Base Wing ORE. 100% personnel met chalk times. Rated highly effective. And this is an appropriate IG rating, and so you can leave it like that. And the reader knows, because you're looking at higher level officials who know that is an IG rating. And so they're going to understand that that is a big wing impact there. Plus it says 81st Air Base Wing. And then you see some of the areas where we've gone in, we've taken out vowels to make abbreviations, or we've left other areas in here. And again, in your writing guide, you will have a list of Air Force and Tongue and Quill approved abbreviations to use. All right, so everybody ready to do it on their own?
Yes, ma'am.
I won't throw you to the wolves too much. We'll go ahead and do this one together. So take a moment to read over this, and we'll highlight some of Master Sergeant Taylor's accomplishments.